This special International Women's Day edition of Everyday Boss Bells is powered by Catherine Speaks Spring Water. Wherever there are voices that say we are less than capable, wherever there are policies that don't serve our best welfare, wherever there are systems that discriminate against women, we choose to challenge. Hello, and welcome to a special International Women's Day edition of Everyday Boss Bells. Today, we are celebrating women in leadership in a big way. We're saluting everyday boss bells in every industry. But today, we have a special woman with us. She is the epitome of little but talawa, one of Jamaica's hardest working civil servants. She is at the forefront of the COVID-19 pandemic that has hit Jamaica over the past year. Today, International Women's Day, March 8, 2021, we're speaking with our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jacquiline Bisasor-McKenzie. Welcome, Doc.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you for joining me. It is an absolute pleasure. I know you are a busy woman. You have been on our television screens almost every night since March 2020. And we're still in a difficult time, so I understand that you're busy, but I want to learn more about who you are, where you're from, how you grew up, family life, before we get into your actual hard work that you do every day. Where were you born and raised?
Well, I'm one of those persons you could consider to be a true Jamaican, been all over the country. I was actually born in Trelawney, but I didn't spend much time there. I was on the western side of the island, and I would think of the island in terms of regions because of the 4 regional health authorities. But my early life was really spent in the western side between Trelawney and Westmoreland. My father was a chemist, and he worked with the sugar companies. So I was born when he was working at Hamden Estate, and then he moved to Froome Estate. And my mother is from Westmoreland. So my father is from Clarendon. And so he met her in Westmoreland, and they got married. And myself and my sister were born in Trelawney, and my brother in Westmoreland.
Oh, nice. So a traveling family, your dad, a chemist. So you have the science in your blood.
Definitely it started there. My father certainly it was for me that kind of person that you saw as very, very organized, very, meticulous in his ways and, how he did things. And I think that came from his science background. He was born in Clarendon. He went to England for the World War II. And I think that gave him a lot of exposure. And when he came back to Jamaica in the early 1950s, he got himself to the US to study chemical engineering at Indiana Technical Institute. So coming back to Jamaica, he was a very well-accomplished person.
That's good. Well, I see where you get your smarts from. Did you always wanted to be a doctor?
No, definitely not. As a matter of fact, I never thought about medicine at all. It was never in my aspirations. Somehow my father culcated in my mind that I was going to be a pharmacologist, which was he wanted me to make medicines. And so I had always thought that when there wasn't really a pharmacology course.
Well, maybe you would have made
the
vaccine. Who knows?
Who knows? So actually, it was always thought that I would go to CAST at the time. It was College of
Now UTech.
Right?
The young folks out there. That's now UTech.
Yes, to do pharmacy first, as a stepping stone. But I finished 5th form when I was 15, and so I was too young to go to CAST, and so I had to do 6th form. And at that time, in those days, once you finished 6th form, it was thought that you would go to university rather than to go to college. Yes. And so I went to university, and in natural sciences. Not really knowing what I was going to do, but science was, just going along. And then in final year, we were exposed to food processing as a course. And I did food processing, majored in chemistry. I did food processing, which I thought was really, really great.
What was so great about it?
It was a practical application of chemistry. So you could now translate all the equations and the chemicals and the molecules and stuff into a real practical application.
About it even now.
Yes. So it was really a practical application, and I actually left university and went to work in the food industry at Citrus Company of Jamaica at the time. No, it isn't there anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. But that was a really great company in terms of the very wide exposure of things that they did. I think it was a real tragedy when they stopped operations, and it was really a big part of the life of Maypen, because by that time I was living in Clarendon.
Wow.
Yes.
From Westmoreland to Clarendon. Yes. What high school did you go to?
Okay, so I went to Glenmuir High School. I went to Denby Primary in Clarendon.
Clarendon.
Yes. A lot of my primary school years too, I spent in St. Catherine at Spanish Town Primary.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay, I'm from Spanish Town.
Yes.
So every time someone said if they have anything to do with Spanish Town, I get excited.
Right, because I moved from Westmoreland. I'm all over the place now, but I moved from Westmoreland to St. Catherine. Mm-hmm. And while there, I started at Spanish Town Primary. And then when we left St. Catherine, I went to St. Elizabeth, where my father was working at Holland Estate. And,
traveling family indeed.
Yes, and I went to Santa Cruz All Age. And then we went back to St. Catherine, and I went back to Spanish Town Primary. So I was part of Spanish Town Primary that was at the old barracks. I don't know if you all remember that. And then we moved to the new building, the present location. That was many, many years ago.
I went to Ensom City All Age.
Well, Spanish Town Primary was the best. So we had very good memories at Spanish Town Primary. And then we left from St. Catherine to go to Clarendon, where I went to Denby Primary and did grade 6 there, and went to Glenmuir High School, which still is wonderful school. So much, learned. I think it really gave you an opportunity to experience so many different things. We're involved in so many different clubs, so many different things.
What was your best high school memories?
I think high school, it was school was about the participation in so many activities. Festival, you were in the choir, you were in festival activities, Spanish festival. We had clubs, Key Club. Key Club was a big thing at that time, and took you to all different schools with interclubbing, and a lot of exposure.
When I went to school, it was a big thing.
A lot of exposure there. We actually formed our own club, because in those days, it was the Secret 7 Days, where there were all these books about clubs that kids would be involved in, Secret 7 and all kind of different clubs.
So you formed your own club.
And we formed our own club at Glenmuir High School. It was called the Glenmuir All-Stars Youth Club.
That's true. You're indeed a star.
Yes. And really, my brother is a year older than me and my sister. No, my brother is 2 years, so I'm the last one. So it's my brother, then my sister, then myself. 1 year apart. Baby. Yes, we're all a year apart.
Well, we have something in common. I'm the baby too.
So we're all a year apart. So my sister and myself were seen as the cheerleaders for my brother. So we supported him in everything, He was the oldest one. And after 5 years at Glenmuir, my brother decided to go to St. Jago, back to St. Catherine, to do sixth form. And of course, 1 year later, my sister and myself followed, and we did sixth form at St. Jago.
So you have a lot of Spanish Town roots. I like
Yes,
that.
yes.
I feel like we have a lot in common. My sister went to St. Jago High School
Okay.
as well.
My husband is from St. Catherine. We actually, and I said to myself that maybe it's a roundabout way of how we were destined to meet each other, because we were actually at primary school together.
At Spanish Town
At Spanish Town Primary. And then we would have left and then come back to St. Jago, where we bucked up again at St. Jago.
Also, your husband from then?
Yes. And
How long have you been married?
I've been married.
This is unlike a woman to not know like that.
27 years. 27 years.
Nice. Congratulations. The children?
Yes, 3 children. My daughter is 27, and my son is 26, 25 this year. Oh God, I lose track. I'm getting old.
No, I can understand. You have a lot on your plate. I think they'll forgive you if you don't remember exactly.
Kristen was born in 94 and Jordan was born in 95. So they're both doctors.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. I think your father has influenced you, and was that influential decision? Was that looking on and seeing mom, or they wanted to be doctors?
Probably I didn't influence them, but my father may have influenced, quite a bit of influence. But we're talking about women in leadership, and I must say that my mother really has been the strength of our family, and really pushing us to accomplish things. I'm telling you, real strong.
I can see you getting emotional.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about mom.
Well, I think my mother was a really strong woman. She really kept the family together. I mean, a lot of families fall apart when they strike adversity. But I think that my mother's determination, she wanted to ensure that her 3 children went to university. And she did not have a university degree. She was from the background where you do a training to do a job, and she did the training to be a professional secretary.
That was a big thing back then.
And that was a big thing. That was a big thing back then. Yes, a big thing. White collar jobs was a big thing back then. And she worked at Frome Estate, and that's where she met my father.
That's
in Westmoreland, right?
Yeah.
So she's from Westmoreland. She came from a large family, and she was the oldest child, so she had a lot of responsibilities with regards to her family. And in terms of my father, very early when we were in primary school, my father had to stop working because of an accident, and my mother, is the one who kept going in terms of me always employed. She had a little temper as well, and nobody could mess with her. So she was taller than me, and I guess I'm seeing through eyes of a child. So to me, she was not little; she was a big woman. But maybe in stature, she really wasn't that big. But she didn't like people to mess with her, and she could be faced.
I like her.
Yes,
I like her already.
So she always, working. We always saw her getting up every single day, getting up and going to work. She comes home, and the first thing she comes home, she don't even put on her bag. She's in the kitchen. She's cooking. She's washing. She's cleaning. I mean, the last thing she does before she goes to bed in the night, everybody has gone to sleep, and she's up. She cleaned the kitchen. She wiped the kitchen, and the kitchen is spotless, and
can't leave dirty dishes.
Exactly, and she is up again early in the morning, weekends. She gets up in the morning, she's washing, she's cooking, she's tidying. She spoiled us terribly, and everybody would believe that we were rich kids going when we were out because we had the best of everything, new uniform, all our school books and everything. And she's a simple woman. I never knew what makeup was because I never saw my mother apply makeup. I never knew what going to the hairdresser was because I never saw my mother go to the hairdresser. She didn't have time. She didn't have time for any of those things. She never went out, never saw my mother go out.
Just family.
Just family.
Family and work.
Yes, and so even as children growing up, we didn't have a lot of things, but it was enough. We never thought there was anything else to have.
Yeah, you had all that you needed.
Exactly. We never went to like parties or stuff, but it was not that we wanted to because.
The truth is that sometimes you can't miss what you don't know.
Exactly.
You can't miss what you don't know.
But we were happy and we had a good life, but it wasn't a life that was filled with, material things. But maybe to us it was filled with material things because we had what we wanted.
And as you said, sometimes you view through the eyes of you being a child. So you don't miss when we become adults and all the things that we now know and can appreciate. Those things didn't matter as children.
Yes.
But speaking about your family, how has that influenced you now as a wife, as a mother? And then we'll talk about the balancing act of that life and your role now that is so extensive.
Well, I took on the role of my mother in terms of keeping the family together because my brother, and so my father actually has 6 children. So he had 3 children that were older than us. And, we did not grow up very close, but it was only in later years that we would have formed bonds, relationships with them, especially with my oldest brother, who is in Jamaica. My oldest sisters are not in Jamaica, so we didn't have a close relationship. But especially in the last, couple of years, we have bonded on certain things, and and certainly there is that strength in the family in terms of knowing that you have these older siblings that are there.
Family is very important, right? Especially your siblings. They're like your built-in best friends.
And so my older brother has provided a lot of guidance and thing, but the real core of the family was really the 3 of us in terms of siblings. My brother Vincent and my sister Angela. As I said, we're 1 year apart. My mother really inculcated in us that strong family. She always said that if you have one sweetie, one ice mint, you have to share it between the 3 of you, and anything that she brought home would have to be shared in 3 all the time. So there was always this strong sense of togetherness. People thought that we were the cheerleaders for my brother, he'd been the oldest. Everything he's involved in, we're there to support him all the time. And I think that togetherness, after my mother died, my brother migrated. He was in Canada. And it was left to me. Somehow it always falls to somebody in the family.
And you're the baby.
Always falls to one person in the family to try to keep the family together. And because, of course, by that time I was married and I had 2 children. So I had my own family. It was just, I guess, it just fell into place that you have to keep everything together, to bring together people on birthdays and make sure that everybody come together at Christmas, cook the Christmas dinner, make sure everybody together at all the different holidays, plan the different together.
A lot of responsibility.
Yes. So it's always important, no matter what you're doing, no matter how busy you are, that you always have to find that time. And I think even today with my own children, I always say it's very important that you make sure you get together. You always come together. Everybody must come together for these things, these different events throughout the year. And birthdays must be celebrated.
Birthdays must be celebrated. The CMO said it, and I concur. Birthdays must be celebrated. And if anybody watching knows me, they know I celebrate birthdays. So I'm there with you. We must celebrate life, and we must celebrate our family. We must celebrate our friends. So it's always important for us to keep those bonds together and just ensure that no matter what, as you say, no matter what is going on. So how do you manage in terms of now that you are, especially in the past year, so busy just managing what's happening in our country globally with the COVID-19 pandemic? How do you balance it all?
Well, first of all, to balance it all, first of all, you have to put in a lot of hours. Yeah, you have to put in a lot of hours in order to get everything done. And as a woman, there are certain things in the family that if you don't do, nobody not going to do.
It's not going to be done.
Exactly. And so it is really being almost constantly at work, because the really and truly managing COVID takes a lot of time. And not even just COVID, just as Chief Medical Officer, there are lots of issues that we go from one crisis to the next. There's always something happening. And so you always have to try to carve out time. I am excellent at multitasking. So I will cook an entire meal while I'm on a Zoom meeting.
Oh, wow.
Or I organize my time on the treadmill for doing emails and to do PowerPoint presentations because I'm doing all of that. I always, I tell my patients who have difficulty, say that they don't have time to exercise. I say, listen, I have worked out something where while I spend 1 hour on the treadmill, and while I'm on the treadmill, this is my email time. I answer emails and I read documents. If there's a document that requires my concentration, but you keep getting distracted, you just take it on the treadmill and you read it.
Right, that's a tip for you.
Yes. So multitasking is very important, but it's also important to have time that your mind is completely free. So
have you managed to do that?
Oh yes. You must ask my children. I have watched entire series on Netflix.
No.
Entire.
You have time to watch Netflix?
I'm telling you, it's the amount of time you put in. So you start your day very early, and I don't waste time so much because I'm from the start, I'm not a social media person. I used to watch people on social media even before we had Twitter, when we had Facebooks and stuff, and email and internet thing. And I say, the amount of time you waste doing that is tremendous. And I'm not going to do that. So I made a decision very early that just takes up a lot of time. But I recognize the value of it because I'm telling you, my 16-year-old daughter, it's amazing the conversations that she can have with you about things, that she has learned on the internet.
It's a whole new media.
It's amazing. I'm saying, who do you know that? Where you get that from? And she really gives good opinions on things because of the stuff that she's read. But I think it does take up a lot of time. So my time has to be, compartmentalized. I told my son the other day that the problem with when you're studying, because he's saying that he doesn't have enough time to study and do everything else. And I said to him, you have to make sure that each allotment of time is quality time, because if you don't have quality time, your next allotment of time is worry time. because you worry that you have not done it well.
Wow.
So if you want to decrease...
I feel like I need a notepad. I need to write that down.
So you need to decrease your worry time. So if you're going to spend time to relax and you completely free your mind, and I do that by either reading a book or watching TV or cooking or gardening, completely free your mind so that at least, even if I don't feel rested after that, I say, I know I have. I know I've done it.
You carved out time for something that you enjoy.
I know I've done it. So even if I don't feel relaxed, I feel as if I can move on. But coping is really about time management and finding the time to do everything. I have to read a lot, so I'm constantly reading. I mean, it's not easy in a press conference when somebody could just ask you anything.
And you don't know.
And you can't. You can't
not know.
You must know something about everything. You can't know everything about everything, but you must know something about everything. And if it is that you know nothing about something, then you must even feel confident to say, I don't know. But people only will accept that if it's not a repetition. If you keep saying you don't know for everything,
you're in trouble.
Then that's trouble. That's trouble. So you can't keep saying that. So I have to constantly read, and it's a lot of things. But I find time for family. My children love to eat, and I love to cook. And I think that a happy house is a house that has food in it.
Amen.
Because, trust me, as they come, because they don't live at home, the older ones don't live at home now. And I have 4 children now because my sister's daughter is now with me. So it's now 4 children instead of 3 children. And when they come down, the worst thing as a mother is when they come down and they open the fridge and then you hear them close it because they can't see anything to eat in there. So I believe that, and as I step in the door, what's cooking? Mom, you cooking today? That is how it is. And then when I just get up and I decide to cook, I put it in the WhatsApp group, I'm cooking today. Who wants to come home?
It's so funny.
Yeah, and they all, they come and they sit and they eat, and it's
that brings you joy. I
can
tell.
A lot. My husband and I are reminiscing to say, 3-4 children is not bad because we all sit down there. We have to physical distance because the 3 older ones now, including my niece, they all have their significant other now, so the house is full. We all have to social distance. 3 out of the lot are doctors that work in busy areas, so they're all
a house of doctors.
The possibility of exposure is there, and I keep telling them we've gone 1 year, we haven't caught COVID yet, so we can't catch it now.
We're not going to catch COVID. We're not going to catch COVID at all.
Yeah, but it's important to find the time to spend with family, because at the end of it, your family is what you have, and you.
It is, amen. I strongly believe in that. Mm-hmm. But for persons who may not know, what does the CMO? What's your role? What does the Chief Medical Officer does in the public health sector? Mm-hmm. So from a day-to-day, we know you are. I think before COVID, a lot of persons probably wouldn't have known who you are. Mm-hmm. So the pandemic has kind of put you in the spotlight. Mm-hmm. So tell us what your role entails, what that means for future CMOs out there if they want to take up the challenge to say, okay, this is something I'd like to do or not do. Mm-hmm. Give us an insight into kind of your day-to-day life as the CMO.
Well, the CMO is the person that is have that overall responsibility for the technical services within the ministry, And so in terms of advising the minister and the government on policy decisions, where it is that we want to go, every minister, of course, comes in with a certain list of things that they want to accomplish. And we assist them in accomplishing this by looking at the technical areas and working out how some of these things can be done and to do the planning, etc. But outside of those kind of policy changes that will occur from time to time and the movement to get those done, there is a basic responsibility for the health system that must steadily be worked on. So regardless, I look at it at two different levels. One thing that the ministry must be consistently working on improving the health system, ensuring that the health system provides for the population based on the population needs at the time, because it changes from time to time. And so we must constantly be providing that guidance and then the monitoring and ensuring that what is needed to provide the service is there. So that's a basic thing that I think that we continuously do. And we have 4 technical services within the ministry, 4 technical branches: health systems planning and integration, health promotion and protection, emergency disaster management, and our national epidemiology unit. So those 4 technical branches report to me. And so we have very strong leaders in each of those areas, and you help to monitor and to ensure that what comes out of these branches support the policies and the justice strengthening of the health system. So you provide oversight, so it's a management role, provide technical guidance, yes, based on my own experience over the last almost 30 years, the experience you bring to the table, you provide guidance and you provide oversight. And then we have the 4 regional health authorities that are really the service delivery sites.
There's a lot of people reporting to you.
Yes, that also now, in terms of the delivery of the service, they have their challenges, and we have to provide as a ministry the guidance for them in terms of ensuring that they have what it takes and what is needed to carry out the policies of the ministry. And then outside of those, then we have the other agencies of the ministry, like National Public Health Lab.
And they all report into you, or it's...
Right, so we have some direct reporting responsibility, where on their job description, they will see you report, your boss is a CMO, and then you have some indirect reporting relationship, like for the regional health authorities, you have 4 regional technical directors who are the senior technical persons within the regions. But in terms of their oversight, and it's almost a dotted line relationship to me, because I'm the chief technical person for the ministry.
How does one become a CMO? What's the journey to get into this role? Because would you say it's the pinnacle of that field? I don't know. That sounds like a big job. Is there something else you'd want to do post that? Was that the height of your career, and what was your journey to get into this place?
It was not my aspiration to be the chief medical officer. I think 6 years ago, I would not even have been able to tell you what a chief medical officer was or the role that they played. But I think it's a very important position. You are given a unique opportunity to make changes and to advocate for the different groups that either report directly or indirectly to you. You are given an opportunity to see, certainly for myself, having worked in all the different sectors of health, I I spent 7 years in general practice as a general practitioner. And I think that really gives you a good insight into the feel of the population. I mean, I've worked in primary care in the public health system, and I've worked in the hospital system in the public sector at Spanish Town Hospital for many years. And I think emergency medicine gives you a very broad overview of all the different areas because everything falls through you to get into the hospital. I've worked at the university hospital, which is a different environment as well. So I've had a very broad experience from a clinical perspective to be able to provide advice and on both policy as well as programmatic implementation. But coming into public health in 2014 was when I ventured into
6 years ago.
6 years ago in public health. At that time, I didn't even really come in to the ministry thinking about public health because I came in as Director of Emergency Medical Services. And so I was still clinically oriented in terms of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve. But I almost think that I've had a crash course to becoming CMO, and as a matter of fact, preparing for the pandemic, because after that we went through Ebola, and chikungunya, then Zika, then dengue. In between that, we had an outbreak of influenza. We had the situation at Cornwall. We had the situation with the nosocomial infections in hospitals with several babies that died. So it was almost like a crash course in public health, really and truly.
That was, the COVID almost overrides. Sometimes you forget about those things. But
there were so many important things to learn from each of those epidemics that really helped in our overall approach to management of COVID. And the strengthening of the health system that we have been able to achieve during the management of COVID has come out of seeing what we could have or should have achieved in the management of those other epidemics. So when we had COVID now, it was pulling together all the information that was gained over the last 5 years before COVID to say, how now do we address this and look at the weaknesses we had in managing the epidemics in the past, and how do we ensure we don't make the same mistakes? And I think when you ask me, how do you prepare to be CMO? It is everybody's own preparation to be CMO, because we've had several CMOs in the past and successful in the different areas that they have seen as their priorities. But for me personally, I didn't plan to be CMO. I didn't set out to prepare to be CMO. But looking back, I think that all the experiences I've had in my clinical life, in my life as a doctor, has prepared me to be CMO.
And you're doing a heck of a job.
And I happen to be, as a lot of other persons, because right now in the ministry, I mean, it's not me alone. It's a team, both at the executive management level, at the technical level. You know, it's an entire pulling together of the team. And those things are things also that we learned, certainly that I learned in managing the other epidemics or seeing how the other epidemics were managed, that we needed to have the communication, the coordination, the planning. So I think we have a good team that are in place at the right time.
So share with us what your legacy is for the public health sector and your advice to our future everyday boss bells of public health, well, the future CMO.
Okay. So, there is a saying, or somebody said that a leader has the audacity to create, or requires the audacity to create an inspirational vision that will motivate others to engage and make it their vision. And I really want to see for Jamaica a health system that we can all be proud of. We can't satisfy everybody, but I think in particular, the persons that deliver the health system should be proud to be a part of it. Okay? And I think we have too many compartments within the health sector, people appearing to pull against one another. We don't share the same vision. And maybe it is because we don't communicate that vision. But what I want to see is, and what I'm working on, which I would want to leave as my legacy, is the organization of primary care to meet the needs of the population, and for secondary care to be responsive to the population. So I have been working on those in terms of the whole organization of these two levels of care to make sure that it is robust, and it is something that we can steadily, we're not going to achieve it one time, but that we can steadily move towards achieving it. And that vision, I would want everybody in the health sector to have that vision. So it's not going to be achieved, maybe not in my lifetime, not in anybody's lifetime, but certainly we want to put that vision out and for everybody to be a part of that vision and make it their vision. And in time we will make it happen.
Are you writing it down?
Yes, we're writing.
You know what I say about writing down the vision, right?
Yes.
So you have to write it down, and it will eventually come into light. But finally, just share with the future generation of women, what do you think they need to possess, not just academically or technically, but innately, what they need to possess in order to take on a role like this, or any role that they foresee themselves in? Right.
I think everybody should recognize that whatever you're going through now is a step. And so you need to make the most of it. So whether it is that you are, as a doctor, you are in private practice, you're between jobs, not sure in what you want to do, no matter where it is that you are, you're struggling working in an emergency department, you're in a little back of bush health center, whatever it is, that experience is contributing to your entire body of experience, and it's going to be useful in the future. So you need to make use of it, and to get the most that you can out of it, give your most to it. Just do your best in whatever you're doing, because it is contributing to that moment that you're going to shine. And the other thing is that make use of the opportunities that are presented to you. A lot of times doors open, and we must walk through those doors, if we're going to get somewhere. But even at a time when the doors are not opening, we must open some doors, So we have to grasp the opportunities. As women, we should not wait for somebody to invite us. We should not wait for somebody to recognize that we're sitting at the table. We need to make ourselves known. We need to make people know that we're serious.
We need to make the table.
Yes. If you don't think the table is in front of you, you need to put a table in front of you. But you have to grasp the opportunities. Don't wait for somebody to say, "Oh, what you're doing over there." No, I am doing this. It can't be that I enter into a job and when I've gone, nobody remembers that I was there. Make a difference. Make a difference.
And that is a lot of nuggets from our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jacquiline Bisasor-McKenzie. Make a difference. Make your own table if you have to. Show up and be remembered for something great. To our everyday boss bells out there, happy International Women's Day. Today, March 8, 2021, we are celebrating women everywhere. We're choosing to challenge the status quo. And until next time, I'm your girl, Michelle-Ann, the PR Belle.
This special International Women's Day edition of Everyday Boss Bells was powered by Catherine Speak Spring Water.